Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the second annual HateWatchers Awards. And now, your host for the night, Mr. HateWatcher. Welcome one and all to our year-end recap of the worst shows and movies of 2023, known as the HateWatchers Awards. This is a time to reflect on the year's most hateful, incoherent, and disappointing products brought to us by the increasingly talentless, agenda-driven creators that call Hollywood home. It's also a time to celebrate ourselves as we survived the mountain of crap that Hollywood heaped on top of us in 2023. We have 10 wonderful awards to give out tonight, and as always, we give special consideration to the shows and movies covered on HateWatchers this year. While there will always be horrifically or hilariously bad shows put out there, we prefer to focus on the big-time releases that we've reviewed on this channel, that dominated pop culture headlines and reached millions of eyeballs. So, everyone, please take your seats as the ceremony is about to begin. Our first award of the night, the Least Developed Characters Award, is meant to commemorate those writers who don't waste time doing silly things like developing their characters throughout the course of their story. Our first nominee is Ahsoka. Not only did Dave Filoni not develop his characters, who somehow remained unchanged from premiere to finale, but he actively regressed characters like Grand Admiral Thrawn from their Legends counterparts. Next up, we take a visit to the Rebel Moon, where Zack Snyder tried to develop an all-new fantasy universe by ripping off every other fantasy universe he could think of. Throughout the 2-hour Part 1 film, the ensemble of characters didn't even have lines once they joined the crew, much less character development. Our last nominee, The Mandalorian, took a step back from things set up in the previous 2 seasons. After spending those 2 seasons unlearning his cultish beliefs, such as that he couldn't remove his helmet, Din Djarin actually regressed in this regard in Season 3, before ultimately getting sidelined in favor of Bo-Katan and her strong womanhood. And now, the award for Least Developed Characters goes to Rebel Moon. A late entry into the candidate pool for 2023, Rebel Moon made the wrong kind of splash with its recent release, and it'll be looking to take home a few more awards this evening. Now, we move on to our next award, which honors the show or movie that did irreparable harm to its own brand, with the Most Damaging to the Franchise Award. Our nominees tonight are Five Nights at Freddy's, The Witcher Season 3, and Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. While Five Nights at Freddy's may have some good moments hidden around the corner for fans of the franchise, the weak reception of the film may put off casual viewers for future installments. Few shows have crumbled faster than The Witcher, and Season 3 accelerated its fast-approaching demise by further straying from the lore and thus scaring off Henry Cavill, the one thing the show had going for it. And lastly, there are few things that fans want to see less than a crotchety old action hero and an unlikable asshole in a film. And Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny gave us both as Disney and Lucasfilm brought us this major letdown to cap off the franchise. And the winner of the Most Damaging to the Franchise Award goes to The Witcher. No one outside of the production crew thinks that Witcher should return for Season 4, but at least now they can call themselves an award-winning show. Our third award of the night is the Who Cares Anymore Award. This award serves to highlight those shows or movies that just leave you scratching your head thinking to yourself, who is still watching these? Our first nominee is Fast X. The 10th mainline installment of the 22-year-old franchise reminded us just how far stupidity can go when left unchecked. Next up, the Marvels erased any doubt that the MCU is floundering and directionless in the middle of Phase 5. Last up, Secret Invasion scored less than 1 million viewers and only had more viewers than one other MCU series, which was Ms. Marvel. Secret Invasion wasted some big-name talent on a show that just had us saying, who cares about this stuff anymore? And the Who Cares Anymore Award goes to Secret Invasion. Wow, a clutch win for Secret Invasion, who manages to win their only nomination of the night. Moving from fantasy to the real world, we have a new award this year that commemorates the worst historical revision made by a show or movie. Our first nominee, Napoleon, was a look at the life and motivations of the French ruler Napoleon, brought to us by a salty Brit. What could go wrong? From butchering Napoleon's personality alongside historical fact, this film was nothing short of a historical hit piece. Our next nominee, Cleopatra, dropped all pretense as they blatantly ignored historical records and common sense in order to portray the Macedonian ruler of Egypt as black, based solely on the ramblings of one professor's black supremacist grandma. And the show managed to piss off an entire nation along the way. And we round out our nominations with Oppenheimer. Rather than focus on the much more intriguing and complex discussions about morality that J. Robert Oppenheimer's work brought up, this movie opted to spend more than half its time on his apparent love for communism. And the winner of the Worst Historical Revision Award is Napoleon. This had to have been a tough choice for the committee, but they must have decided that trying to completely change who history tells us Napoleon was, while ignoring the advice of historians, was a serious affront to historical knowledge. On to our next award, the award for the biggest disappointment. This award goes to the film or series that fell shortest of its often lofty expectations. The first nominee, Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, didn't have the highest of expectations after some weak film festival reviews and the reception that Kingdom of the Crystal Skull got, but even then the film still managed to underwhelm and disappoint. Next up, Rebel Moon was billed as Zack Snyder's R-rated Star Wars for adults, but instead we got a terribly written PG-13 mess of a story and a promise that the director's cut will be better, which is just a marketing ploy considering that Netflix didn't put any restraints on Snyder for the version we got. Our last nominee is Season 3 of The Mandalorian. After Season 2 ended on an incredibly high note with the best scene in a live-action Star Wars show to date, hopes were high for the titular Mandalorian and his little green friend. But Season 3 ended up being a big fat dud as the meandering story foisted Bo-Katan on us as the lead character, sidelining the heroes we had followed for 2 seasons. And now, the biggest disappointment of 2023 is The Mandalorian. Lizzo's appearance in Star Wars left us all feeling just as violated as her backup dancers, so this award is well earned. This next accolade goes to the individual character that most single-handedly brought down a show or movie. This is the Lamest Character Award. First up, we begrudgingly look back on Helena, the insufferable, unlikable, unbelievably horrible goddaughter in Indiana Jones. When she wasn't busy getting innocent people killed or captured, Helena was trying to be snarky while robbing the iconic Indiana Jones of his own agency as a character. Next, Velma gets its first nomination of the night. Mindy Kaling's self-insert character's casual racism and sexism did most of the heavy lifting in making Velma one of the worst shows produced possibly ever. And securing the last nomination is Jason Momoa's Dante Reyes character from Fast X.
Here we go!
Need I say more? And the lamest character of 2023 is Helena from Indiana Jones. Well, the third time's the charm, as Indiana Jones takes home its first award with its third nomination of the evening. Now we move to our 7th award of the night, the Most Disrespectful to the Lore Award. This one commemorates the show or movie that gives the biggest middle finger to its source material, as it dives headlong into the seas of modern adaptations. The first nominee is The Wheel of Time. The fantasy show based on the novel series written by Robert Jordan continued to stray from the original story and characters in its second season, culminating in the epic final battle of the second book between good and evil being replaced with a lazy stab to the heart. Velma takes the second nomination for the Most Disrespectful to the Lore Award. Not only did Velma give the finger to the original cartoon, but the show then shambled the Scooby-Doo franchise's corpse around to push its racist, hateful agenda. And the last nomination goes to The Witcher. People like the casting director have made it clear that changing existing characters' race, gender, and sexuality is their #1 priority on set. And Henry Cavill's departure from the show made it obvious that respecting the lore of the books wasn't even a consideration for the creators. And now, the award goes to Velma. Velma snags its first win of the night, and a very well-deserved win at that. Before we wrap things up with our final 3 awards of the night, we want to take a second to recognize some of the good shows and movies that 2023 brought us, just a few of which you're seeing on screen now. As fun as hate watching can be, it's still perhaps more important to support good shows and movies, so make sure to vote with your wallet and spend your time and money where it matters most. Now, back to our regularly scheduled programming. We head into our final stretch of awards with the Most On-Message Award, which identifies the film or series that most aggressively or shamelessly pushes its current thing modern world agenda. Our first nominee, Barbie, secures its first nomination of the night. Barbie having more than 90 different jobs wasn't enough. This movie needed to make it clear that women have a harder life than can possibly be imagined. And to cap it all off, the movie ends with promoting the idea that men don't belong in government. Velma grabs yet another nomination after tirelessly promoting its radical ideology by way of a hijacked children's cartoon. And lastly, Cleopatra earns the final nomination as the supposed documentary shamelessly pushed its lies and proved that for these creators, even in the face of historical reality, the message reigns supreme. And now, the winner of the Most On-Message Award is Cleopatra. After pissing off the entire nation of Egypt and becoming one of the most reviled series of all time, Cleopatra may have just hit rock bottom, as it goes home with a HateWatchers Award. Next up is the Biggest Flop Award, an accolade reserved for the biggest box office bomb or a big-time show with embarrassingly low viewership numbers. The nominees for 2023's Biggest Flop are Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, The Marvels, and The Flash. Indiana Jones's box office failures are well documented, but not as well documented is the fact that the movie lost potentially north of $250 million. After scoring the worst debut box office in MCU history, The Marvels went on to then experience the worst second-week drop-off in history, on its way to losing somewhere between $100 to potentially $200 million. Lastly, while it's chugged along to a $270 million box office, The Flash stumbled out of the starting blocks on its opening weekend and still ended up losing roughly $200 million. And the award for 2023's Biggest Flop goes to Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. 2023 was the year of the massive flop, but only Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny can claim the crown for the biggest flop of the year. And now, our final award of the night, the granddaddy of them all, the award for worst writing. Nothing can sink a film or series faster than some amateur putting pen to paper after having their ego inflated and made to think that they're a good writer. Our first nominee for worst writing is the most recent entry, Rebel Moon. Zack Snyder was a one-man operation in creating, writing, and directing Rebel Moon. And the middle school level script he turned in make, written by Zack Snyder, 4 of the scariest words in the English language. Up next, we have another one-man show with Dave Filoni and Ahsoka. Dave Filoni took all of the writing credit for the Ahsoka series, so he deserves all of the blame, after he put on a masterclass in bad writing. Filoni made every mistake in the book, including, but not limited to, endless plot contrivances, puddle-deep characters that aren't developed, non-threatening villains, and wooden, hollow dialogue. You People pulls in the final nomination of the evening. This romantic comedy forgot to include any jokes in its script, and totally wasted the likes of Eddie Murphy and Jonah Hill. And to top it all off, it featured several stretches of painfully awkward dialogue that sounded more like Kanye West tweets than something a professional would write. And now, the award for worst writing goes to Ahsoka. Ahsoka manages to secure its first win with the last award of the night. And it's better late than never, as now Ahsoka can always be remembered as being the worst written show or movie of 2023. Well, that's a wrap for the 2023 HateWatchers Awards. Indiana Jones was the big winner on the night, taking home 2 awards on 5 nominations. Rebel Moon and Velma both took home 1 award on 3 nominations, while Cleopatra, Ahsoka, The Mandalorian, and The Witcher all took home 1 award on 2 nominations each. Remember that even if something didn't win an award tonight, there's still a loser for making the list. And, of course, there are plenty of awful shows and movies that came and went without being on our radar in 2023. But there's only so much time one can spend hate watching in a year. What do you think about the committee's selections tonight? Any other shows or movies that you think should have been nominated or won an award tonight? What other awards do you think should have been given out, and who do you think deserved to win them? Let us know in the comments below. As 2023 comes to a close and 2024 brings us the promise of many more awful shows and movies, we here at HateWatchers wanted to thank you, the viewer, for spending your time with the channel and having a laugh with us at what a joke Hollywood has become. We want to wish everyone a very happy new year and to just say that we're looking forward to all the hate-watchable material 2024 will bring. Remember to leave a like on the video if you liked it, and consider subscribing to Hate Watchers for a whole new year of hate watching fun. Thank you for hate watching along with us this year, and we'll catch you in the next one.